Unfortunately, horror movies don't really scare me anymore. Sure, I might get tricked into jumping at intense music and blurred images, but those feelings don't stay with me if what's on screen doesn't seem real. All of these movies are missing a key ingredient, something that makes me think long after it's over. Look at Zodiac. Everyone watching that movie knew the killer was never caught, but every scene still adds tension. There are multiple moments where David Fincher manipulates the audience's expectations, but he doesn't force images down our throat. He draws us in and makes us sit in our uncomfortability for as long as he wants.
It's locked.
A good piece of satire can walk the same line between fiction and reality so well that it makes me question the world around me. Look Who's Back, directed by David Vent, does just that, and it made me more uncomfortable than any movie since Martyrs. Put simply, it follows what happens when Hitler magically reappears in Germany and is idolized all over again. It has a unique structure, combining a fictional narrative where people think he's a performance comedian making a statement, interlaced with conversations between the title character and real citizens discussing politics for a fake documentary.
Ja, sowieso, wir mussten ja das Kreuzzeichen machen, wo es hinkommt. Und ich bin der Meinung, dass es hier nicht anders abgeht, dass die Kreuze dann irgendwo von jemand anders noch lacht.
Hidden under man-at-a-time jokes and riffs on pop culture is a movie that is sharply aware of societal complacency and ignorance to the lessons of history. While the movie isn't too long, they shot nearly 300 hours of real conversations, and according to Vent, the final cut represents a majority of those discussions. These interviews remind us how similar people's attitudes towards immigration and racial superiority are to the 1930s, and how sure people can be of their bigoted beliefs when someone else validates them. Despite the fact Hitler is associated with genocide, people converse with him as if it were nothing, and tell him about their fears for Germany.
Und dann halt man sagt, ja, so wird's gemacht, Punkt aus, Fertigkeit.
Oliver Masucci, who did a great job portraying the main character, said some people completely forgot I was only an actor in makeup and costume. I quickly realized how they tick, and that they hadn't learned much from history. It doesn't matter if things seem better now. People are the same, and our judgment is still easily manipulated by figures promising terrible things in the name of state renewal. Sometimes we need comedy to point out how ridiculous the world is because it forces us to recognize our problems in a way documentaries and dramas just can't.
Do you just say spokesman instead of spokesperson when women are just as capable of selling sandwiches as anyone?
History reminds us ethnic tensions can cause war, but to see someone dressed as Hitler spark a racial brawl in a World Cup fan zone forces us to see this behavior at the local level. The scene seems ridiculous enough to be in a comedy movie, but when you realize someone in a Hitler costume pushed people to fight, the movie loses its quirky feel and turns into an ugly reminder of the small-scale violence possible under hateful leaders. In school, I had a few professors ask what we thought would happen if Hitler returned. Could we distance ourselves? Or would too many people support his views to drown them out? We like to think we've outgrown our hateful tendencies, but there are more tools for propaganda and misinformation than ever before. It took Hitler like 2 seconds to recognize TV could allow him to control people's lives, and I'm sure he's not the first person to realize this. Now, I'm not saying Trump is Hitler, but last year when no one thought he had a serious chance at becoming the Republican nominee, the media caved to his celebrity status and gave him a platform no other candidate can compete with.
The only one qualified to interview me is me.
By trying to boost their ratings, the networks gave his bigotry a larger audience than it naturally deserved, and it essentially validated his behavior. Just like we see happen to Hitler in the movie.
Zujubeln? Nicht, weil sie glauben, der ist lustig oder ironisch oder irgendwas. Die finden das cool, was der sagt. Die finden, der Typ hat recht.
In our celebrity-obsessed society, there's only one thing we should expect when a racist is given a soapbox. People listen.
Ja, selbstverständlich. Ja, was glauben Sie, wie das alles rüberschwappt? Ja. Nur weil wir Deutschen den Mund nicht aufmachen dürfen, weil uns immer noch etwas anhängt?
Whether you think you're dealing with the devil, a clown, or someone just playing pretend, remember what people say matters, whether they mean it or not. So yeah, this comedy movie scared the shit out of me. Obviously Hitler won't come back, but the film shows us how the media would incubate and misrepresent him in a way that feels so real it's scary. It reminds us to confront hatred and corrosive behavior before our values become so convoluted, nuclear weapons and torture seem appropriate again.
Well, I'm never going to rule anything out, right. And I wouldn't want to say, even if I felt it wasn't going, I wouldn't want to tell you that.
Republican leaders think they can control the Donald, just like President Hindenburg and Chancellor Papen thought they could control Hitler in 1933 if they tried really, really hard. Why would it be any different this time?
You have to remember, the movie was released in 2015.
And since then we've seen Trump's rise, Britain exit the EU in a racially charged campaign, and the election of a Filipino president with a literal death squad. So it seems more relevant than ever. Democracy is only as strong as its base, and the movie reminds us scared people will always fall for figures willing to manipulate their fears, even if it means they accept some terrible things in the process.
Ich habe Propaganda reingelegt. Es wurde ein Führer gewählt, der in aller Klarheit seine Pläne offengelegt hat. Die Deutschen haben mich gewählt.